Once we have done our first attempt in the design, we'll fine-tune what we have so far. In this lesson, we'll evaluate what we have on the printed form. One of the things that I do in my work is having it on the printed form. In this way, having something out of the screen is very helpful for us to really see it in a tangible way and evaluate it in this way. The first thing that I'll do is evaluate spacing. The word domestica, especially what is happening between the D, O, M, E, is quite open in comparison to what happens here in TIKA. This is something that we need to adjust. So I'll have a note here about spacing. The same happens here because we just tapped it. This part is not my lettering, it's not a bespoke font. We need to really fix it. So what happens between all these characters is quite open in comparison of the E and N and these two. If you remember on previous lessons, we talked about a straight shape versus irregular and then circular shapes. And this is something that you can see in here, especially between the N, T, S. So maybe we do the exercise of placing the letters in the middle of two. Things said, I think we have some issues about spacing in here as well. The letter T is quite close to the Y, and maybe some of these ligatures really need to connect, especially here. From our previous lesson, we talked about negative space. If you see this shape, we have this shape coming down here and then goes down to the straight line, but it's so subtle in here. I think what we need to do is exaggerate this part. So maybe the A comes out the same with the N, and we start this rainbow shape, eyebrow shape on the outside. In this way, attention will really be hugging letters, and the nested letters are gonna feel more comfortable. The next thing I think we should do is, now that we are here, the composition will start gonna feel that is too open just on this part. The way to compensate that is by moving these ribbons to the sides as well. So maybe this kind of arrow ribbon shape also is wider and compensates what we have here. Something that we'll do is maybe tracing a straight line here and try to match what happens here with the beginning or end of our arrows. The next thing, I think this typography here is not really working. Now feels not as special as the arrow ribbon is. So we need to change the font and then just really spice it up. Maybe we don't need by, we change it to the width. Maybe it's not just in uppercase, maybe it's a combination of uppercase and lowercase. Because this is gonna be very wide, maybe we need to move these two parts to the straight line too, instead of the stack as we have it here. So it feels more compensated to the rest of the composition. Once we have it printed, see how attention to the letters is very black in comparison of the other elements. I have mentioned this before. I think these two elements are texture elements. They are informative. Of course, they are saying who the class is by and they are connected. But overall, this is having more of a texture working together with what happens here. Our coloring here is darker, as in lighter here, or these areas, because this is also giving us rhythm in the combination of the different colors. Smaller, 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 and these two are very prominent in a darker color. If you remember, the negative space is really what is happening around our main shape, that is the composition in here. I think that's why it's important that we consider doing these changes, especially in here. Think of just one shape that comes from a diagonal to a straight line and then coming in and out. That's why also we're moving this to the side. So when we have all the negative space drawn, as in here, all this portion outside our composition is also informing what is happening here. It needs to be a balance and a combination of these two elements to work together harmoniously. The same we're going to do here. We have a straight line, but then we have an irregular circular shape here. The negative space will have something different from this side. That's why we need to compensate a little bit more with the spacing of the elements and the scale of them. This is something that we'll do in our next lesson. If you see this composition, everything works like a puzzle. If you move something up or scaling it up or down, it will affect all the rest of the elements. In this way, we are sure that the composition works harmoniously and nicely. We have finished with the evaluation, and we'll take these notes to the computer.